Namo Buddhaya, Namo Amitabha. Hello everyone. So today we continue to discuss the Buddha's life, the 8 stages of manifestation. So in the previous video we discussed the Buddha's great renunciation in detail, and today we're going to talk about how the Buddha subdued Lord Mara and who is Lord Mara. So the reason why I want to discuss the Buddha's life in such great detail and length is because there is really a lot to talk about, and I want to give us the whole picture, the more complete picture that maybe many people did not know or did not discuss. And it really helps us to understand the Buddha's life better and to give us insight about why the Buddha will manifest or perform in this way. Okay, so after the Buddha escaped from the palace, of course his father King Shuddhadana, his wife Yasodhara, like all the family were extremely shocked or saddened to hear about the news. And Yasodhara also vowed to live a simple life after the Buddha's great renunciation. So the Buddha was on his own. He was in the forest and he encountered his first teacher, Alara Kalama, a renowned yogi and meditation teacher at that time. So his first teacher practiced this kind of meditation where he contemplated there is nothing, and the nothingness meditation. And the Buddha quickly attained the meditative concentration at this level and understood that this is not the end, this is not enlightenment. So his first teacher thought this was enlightenment, and the Buddha knew that this was not enlightenment, right? Because if you contemplated that there is nothing, nothingness, there is still an attachment. Attachment to nothingness is also an attachment. So for people who practice this nothingness meditation, one will attain rebirth in the sphere of nothingness. So the sphere of nothingness is the 3rd level of heaven in the formless realm. So we discussed about the 3 realms, the desire realm, the form realm, and the formless realm. How there are 6 levels of heaven in the desire realm, 18 levels in the form realm, and 4 levels in the formless realm. So for people who practice the nothingness meditation, if they were successful, they will be reborn in the sphere of nothingness, which is the 3rd level in the formless realm. So we'll discuss more in our previous videos where we discussed the Buddhist cosmology. For those who are interested, you can have a look at those videos. So beings in the formless realm, they exist like purely consciousness. And then for people who are in the sphere of nothingness, they keep dwelling in the state like where there is nothingness as pure consciousness. And the total lifespan, so they will dwell there for 60,000 Mahakalpa. So this is an extremely long time. And during this time, they could not hear the Dharma. Right? They just dwell there on the idea that there is nothingness. And after this long lifespan is finished, they will lose this meditative concentration and they will fall down. So we'll also discuss about what happened to Alara Kalama in the next video. Okay, so the Buddha quickly attained meditative concentration at this level and knew that this was not the end. So he bade his teacher farewell and continued his search. And he encountered his second teacher called Udraka Ramaputra. So this teacher was the most renowned and the most advanced meditation teacher at the time of the Buddha. So he practiced this meditation that he did not engage in any perception, but he was also not wholly unconscious. So for people who practice this kind of meditation, they will be reborn in the 4th level of the formless realm, the highest level in the 3 realms. So it's called the sphere of neither perception nor non-perception. So neither perception means that he did not engage in perception, but no non-perception means that he was not wholly unconscious, which means that it's not like he did not have perceptions at all. So in this state, they use their deep meditative concentration to make them feel like they do not have perceptions or thoughts, but they still have the underlying karmic seed, karmic tendency, and they just use this deep meditative concentration to make them feel like they do not have perception But this meditative concentration has a time frame. They have a very, very long lifespan. It's like 84,000 Mahakalpas. So they will dwell in this state for 84,000 Mahakalpas. And after the time is finished, then they will lose the meditative concentration, and all the perception, thoughts, attachments, they will all come back. So they have not completely eradicated the attachment, unlike the arahants. So actually, perceptions and thoughts are not the problem. It's the wrong perceptions, wrong views, wrong thoughts that are the problem. So the arahants, they have completely cut off all the wrong perceptions, views, and thoughts. So it's actually very dangerous to be born in the formless realm. No bodhisattva will ever be reborn in the formless realm. So in the sphere of neither perception or non-perception, they will dwell in this state for 84,000 Mahakalpas. And after this extremely long time, they will lose their meditative concentration and they will fall down. We'll also discuss about what happened to the Buddha's second teacher after in the next video. So it's actually quite tricky when one practices meditation. If you don't understand the right direction, it can also be dangerous. So the teacher thought they attained a very high state. It is indeed a high state, but this still cannot help them exit samsara because there is still attachment, albeit subtle. So the Buddha quickly attained meditative concentration at this level, and he realized that this is not the end. So again, he bade farewell to his second teacher and he continued on his own. And he knew that no one could actually teach him, because these two were actually the highest, the most advanced meditation teachers at the time of the Buddha. If these two could not teach the Buddha, then the Buddha had to be on his own. So how did the Buddha know this was not the end? How could he so quickly attain this meditative concentration like his teachers and quickly knew that this was not it? Because from the Lotus Sutra, we knew that the Buddha had countless eons ago already realized Buddhahood. So he just came down to earth on this time to show us the way. So of course he knew this was not the end. And in the Brahmajala Sutra, we also knew that the Buddha had already come to our world for like 8,000 times. So this is not the first time that he came here. And because he had realized Buddhahood countless eons ago, so of course he knew which was the right way, which was not the right way. So Siddhartha knew that he had to be on his own. No teacher could teach him. So he decided to practice 6 years of extreme asceticism, where he ate only 1 sesame and 1 wheat per day. This was really extreme asceticism, till that he only left with like a skeleton, till he was on the verge of death. Now we may have to wonder why the Buddha demonstrated this way, why he had to perform this way, why he had to practice extreme asceticism for 6 years. Didn't he know that, if he realized Buddhahood before, didn't he know that one should not torture one's physical body for enlightenment? Wasn't it obvious that to starve this physical body would not actually reach enlightenment? Didn't he know it earlier? So of course he did. But why he had to perform this way, why he had to starve himself for 6 years, was that at that time there were many spiritual seekers and practitioners who practiced extreme asceticism. And many people held the belief that if I starve my body to like death, I could actually reach enlightenment. So that's why the Buddha came down here to show them, no, actually, this was not the path. So you practice extreme asceticism. I practice extreme asceticism even more than you. And I did it for 6 years. This was actually the top level. No one could surpass the Buddha in terms of extreme asceticism at that time. So he showed them, even if he did it to the extreme, this was not the way. This could not lead him to enlightenment. That's why he had to do this performance to wake those people up, or otherwise people would not know and they would just starve themselves to death. Even nowadays, we still see some people, they try to torture their bodies in all kinds of ways, particularly in India. If you went to India, I've been to India for 5 times, and sometimes I also saw people, they practice all kinds of weird, extreme asceticism, aesthetic practices, and they thought that this could lead them to awakening, but the Buddha showed us that this was actually not the path. One should not starve this physical body. But on the other hand, one should also not indulge in desire. So one should keep the middle path, to walk in the middle, not to indulge in desires, but also not to starve one's physical body. So there needs to be a balance. And the Buddha eventually accepted the offerings, the meal offerings by Sujata. So Sujata was a milkmaid. She made a bowl of milk rice pudding to the Buddha. So after he finished the meal offered by Sujata, he threw the golden bowl into the sea and said, "If I could realize enlightenment today, may the bowl go upward. If not, may it sink down." So after he threw the golden bowl into the river, the golden bowl first flew and went upwards and stayed there for a bit, and eventually it sank down. So the Buddha understood that this was the day that he would realize enlightenment. This was the day that he will perform enlightenment. So he approached to the Bodhi tree. The Bodhi tree is the tree where all the previous Buddhas, when they came down, they all sat under there to realize enlightenment. So he vowed to sit under the Bodhi tree and vowed to not move until he realized perfect enlightenment. And this vow really shocked Lord Mara. Really terrified Lord Mara. So who is Lord Mara? So there is the inner and outer Lord Mara. So the inner Lord Mara can be the personification of our unskillful emotions such as greed, anger, and ignorance. But there is also the outer Lord Mara, who is the Lord of the desire realm. So Lord Mara actually resides in the highest level of the desire realm called Paranimitta Vasavatan. So the heaven of devas wielding power over the creations of others. So what do devas in this heaven do is that they do not need to create any forms to please themselves. Rather, they attain pleasure. They feel happy when they see other people creating pleasures or indulging in pleasures. That's why they like to see people or beings indulge in pleasures. That's how they can obtain happiness. We may ask, why is Lord Mara evil? Shouldn't heavenly beings all be nice because they have to cultivate the 10 good deeds to ascend to the heaven realm, and not to say to be the law of the desire realm? So Lord Mara attained the position of Lord Mara because in the past life that he made offerings to a practical Buddha. That's why in this life he was the Lord Mara with this merit of making offerings to the practical Buddha. So Lord Mara is actually not a bad guy usually. He is quite cool and he likes to see beings in this realm to indulge in desires. If you feel happy from maybe indulging in desire, then he feels happier. But there's really one thing he did not like at all, is anybody that tried to exit the cycle of reincarnation. So that's the Buddha. He is destined to exit the cycle of reincarnation. So he did not like that because it's like you are getting out of his control. He's a bit of control freak. He like all of us to stay in this desire realm, in this suffering samsara. So that's where he get his pleasures from. So a bit weird, right? And we see many Lord Mara's sons and daughters that in this human realm, in the desire realm, to really tempt us into all kinds of desires. So particularly during the Dharma ending age, there are even more of Lord Mara's retinue to manifest in the human realm, to really tempt us in all kinds of desires. So that's why it's extremely difficult to cultivate, to practice at this time in the Dharma ending age. The easiest path is really to Nianfo and to first attain rebirth in the Pure Land. No other path can surpass the Pure Land path, can be as easy as the Pure Land path, because it's almost impossible for anybody to actually cut off your desire, your attachment, your craving. Almost impossible, actually impossible for all the beings in the Dharma ending age. But for the Pure Land path, there is really no way for anybody to exit the cycle of reincarnation. So we really have to be grateful to Shakyamuni Buddha to tell us about Amitabha Buddha and his Pure Land. Okay, so back to Lord Mara. So Lord Mara, of course, really did not like to see Siddhartha to try to exit his realm. So Lord Mara first asked his 3 most beautiful daughters to come and thank the Buddha. So the 3 daughters are really the most beautiful devas, heavenly goddesses, and they are just 100 billion times, even more, hundreds of thousands of billion times more beautiful than any beautiful woman on earth. So these 3 goddesses, they were called Tanha, thirst, Alati, aversion, and Raga, desire or lust or greed. So they did all kinds of seductive moves in front of the Buddha. They even undressed in front of the Buddha. The Buddha was, of course, unmoved, like a lotus flower emerging from the mud without being stained. And the Buddha admonished them and said, "Although you guys have beautiful appearances, but your mind is not upright, just like a beautiful glass bottle full of fishes. You guys have no shame in how you dare to deceive people." And the Buddha used his spiritual power to transform them into old women, skeleton, wrinkled skins. And they, of course, felt really ashamed, and they left. And upon seeing this temptation failed, Lord Mara angrily left all his demonic army to approach the Buddha and threaten the Buddha. If he did not leave and quickly go back to the palace to enjoy a life of luxury, he would just tear him down into pieces. Of course, no one can surpass the Buddha's great merit. So Lord Mara ordered the demonic army to shoot all their arrows and swords at the same time to the Buddha. The Buddha emitted great light, and all the demons fell down, and none of the swords and weapons could actually touch the Buddha. They were all fell down. So Siddhartha successfully defeated Lord Mara. And Lord Mara still did not want to give up. And the Lord Mara said to the Buddha, "Even if you become a Buddha, who would believe you? Who could testify that for you?" And the Lord Buddha used his right hand, used his fingers to touch the earth and said, "The earth will testify for me." And the earth spirit appeared from the ground. So the earth spirit is called Prithvi. In Hinduism, it's called Prithvi. Also, Prithvi is also a Dharma protector in Buddhism. In other tradition, it can be called the Mother Earth, Gaia Panchamama. So there's really the Mother Earth, the spirit that governs the earth. So she appeared from the ground, and she made various offerings to the Buddha, bowed at the Buddha, and said to Lord Mara, "I testify that he will definitely realize Buddhahood today, and this Bodhisattva had already cultivated the holy path for countless eons and had countless merit. And today is the day that he will realize the perfect enlightenment." So upon the earth spirit testified for the Buddha, the Lord Mara left. So in that evening, he saw a bright star rising up in the sky, and he finally realized perfect enlightenment. He became a Buddha. Again, he had realized Buddhahood countless eons ago. This was just one of his performance, his manifestation. Okay, so in the next video, we'll talk about his enlightenment in detail. Really, really important stuff. Namo Buddhaya, Namo Amitabhaya.